Good Sunday morning. You're listening to Access Houston. I'm your host, KG Smooth, welcoming in the studio. First timer who was brought here by a friend of the show, the lovely and vivacious Jalea Davis, owner of Iconic Television. She is the founder of Doing for More and also 3C Women's Network Houston. C3
Women's Network Houston.
Yes, the lovely Mrs. Donna Marshall-Payne, a.k.a. Mrs. Donna. Hi.
Hey, how is everybody doing?
I am wonderful. How are you?
I'm wonderful, thank you.
Good.
Thank you for having me.
I'm glad that you are here. So I understand that you have this nonprofit organization, the C3 Women's Network Houston. Tell us about C3 and how it came about.
Okay, wonderful. Well, C3 Women's Network Houston, the C3 stands for Community, Character, and Charisma. We're a group of women that have come together to elevate one another because we believe in when you collaborate, you elevate. And so we don't believe in competition. So this actually started about a year or so ago when I was the keynote speaker in Dallas-Fort Worth. And the founder, the beautiful Miss Tiara Davis of C3 Women's Network, asked me to start the very first branch of C3 Women's Network. And I did just that, which is now C3 Women's Network Houston. And so we're out in the community trying to touch lives, give back, and do far more, no pun intended. But that's what we do. Yes.
And what is the organization's mission?
Our mission is actually to bring what we're doing coming up on February the 1st. We're trying to launch our C3 Junior League for ages 13 to 18, where we can develop young girls and give them things that will help them thrive after graduation, as some young girls do not desire to go to college. So we're looking to give them trades and tools to help them elevate and also get them involved with various things and activities during that critical age of ages 13 to 18. So we have mentorship that we're doing. So that's really our mission, and that's what we're trying to do on February the 1st for our first annual B.
And for that, the girls, are they all high school age?
We have not one girl yet because we're launching on the 1st. So we welcome all ages from 13 to age 18.
13 to 18.
13 to 18, because that's that critical age where you can really kind of grab them before they take off in the wrong direction.
Yeah, indeed.
And we believe that.
I'm glad that you are doing that because, I mean, I remember that used to be an option if, one doesn't want to go right to school.
Absolutely.
To a university or to a college, that there were, trade schools or the high school would offer some sort of trade program. I know I'm from Dayton, Ohio.
Okay.
Lived in a suburb called Trotwood. It was kind of like, the middle upper class of black folks.
I
so
get it.
at my high school, we also had an extended branch, which was like a vocational trade school that was, somewhere else. And so if kids didn't want to, go to regular high school like us, I mean, they went to the trade school and got those skills. That's not offered now. They did that.
I don't think so.
Away.
Yeah. So I remember what we called it was co-op back in the day. I've been working since I was 16, actually since I was 11.
Hey.
Yeah, I babysat, did that thing. And then at 16, I went right to work.
Me too.
But I still went to school, but I only had to go to school half a day. I don't even know if that exists. I'm telling my age, but that's all right. So for me, all that I've been through in my entire season, 50 years, I wish that there was something that I can kind of gravitate to back in my teenage years. My mother was a very hardworking woman, so she wasn't always there because she worked all the time to provide her and my dad. So I was in the church. Went to Sunday school, usher board, choir rehearsal. I did all of that because I'm from a small Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. I was in church. So for these days, it's a little different for this generation. So what I'm trying to do is provide an outlet for those young girls, while I have collaborated with certain companies to offer coding programs for the young girls through a very prestigious firm. We're not releasing that yet, but it's in the works. We're also collaborating with people that are able to teach editing skills in the media world for the young girls as well. And we're also trying to collaborate with a barbershop academy for them to be able to have that kind of trade in place for young girls. You know, you don't see very many barbers that are females, you know. So we're collaborating with so many different companies out there to provide outlets for those young girls, so they're just not sitting at home, sitting on their thumbs, you know, doing nothing.
Right. Or doing this.
Yes. Getting neck pain by texting. So it's just so many opportunities out there. For my company as well, doing far more, we're offering those hidden gems for mobile notaries, ages 18 on up. People don't know about it. You know, when you turn 18, you can do a plethora of things to gain extra income and make it a career. That's what I did to keep my son in private school, and people just don't know about that mobile notary thing. So
wow.
I am teaching that.
It sounds like there's a plethora of these young kids to get into if they,
Absolutely.
you know, don't want to take the college or university route. You're listening to Access Houston. We're talking to Mrs. Donna from C3 Women's Network Houston. You're having an event called B.E.E.
Yes.
B.E.E., which is an acronym for Business Education Expo. That's happening on the 1st at the United Way Resource Center, hosted by C3 Women's Network Houston. What can people expect at the Business Education Expo?
Well, we're super excited about that, actually. I only launched C3 Women's Network Houston at the beginning of the year. As a matter of fact, April 28th was our very first interest meeting. And we had a multitude of women that showed up for the event. God blessed me with my board, which I have 5 amazing women that have joined my board. And so we put it together where we're able to not just come together and network, but we're going to have some tools for people to use. So if you're thinking about becoming a boss, being a leader, being a CEO, having your own business, this is the place to be. We have, oh my gosh, on our Powerhouse Women's panel, if I may, I'll tell you a few of the ladies that will be there, which is the, like you say, the vivacious Miss Julia Davis, who made history multiple times, but she is the youngest to ever own a television station. She did it at the age of 25. God bless. We'll also have Dr. Andrea Alexander, who is just phenomenal in her own right. She is an OBGYN here in Houston who has just touched amazing amount of lives. We'll have Felicia Jones, who is from Scholars Academy, to drop some nuggets on the educational realm for the young people that are there. And then we have Dr. Ashante Odom, who is just amazing. She will be dropping nuggets on credit for business, credit for personal, to get your credit right, to help elevate you. But on top of that, we have a youthpreneur panel. We have the beautiful CEO Sauce Boss, which is Tyler Simone. She'll be on there. Y'all, if y'all haven't tasted her sauce, you better get at it because it's amazing. And then we have Haley Fields, who has Haley's Kisses, a young girl who is 15, or maybe she just turned 16, but she actually has her own lipstick and lip gloss line. And she also has a nonprofit organization as well. We have Jay Alana, who is a beautiful, beautiful young lady who believes in anti-bullying. She has graced the runway at the New York Fashion Week as well. And then we have she's just so dynamic, Miss Sanaya Simone, who was the 2019 Miss Teen USA, who will be there as well. They will all be dropping nuggets and just trying to inspire you and empower you to do far more. And again, no pun intended, because that's real when I say that. We're going to have it kicked off with a spoken word from Kathleen. If y'all don't follow C3 Women's Network, you better get at it at C3WNH19 to see all of the dynamic people. And our beautiful host is the Amanda Sapp.
Oh, yeah.
From the Amazing 102. You know who she is.
Amazing 102. Yeah.
Yes, we'll have
friend to the show.
Yeah, she's beautiful. We'll have some mobile bartenders. We have some mobile chefs. Y'all, and the chefs, we're going to have the top chef at the B, so you'll be able to vote on the quality of food that you're getting, the presentation and the service that you're getting. And all of them are women and young ladies.
That's what I was
Our
just
vendors,
thinking to myself.
Yes.
There's a lot of BGM going on.
Okay, hit me with BGM. What is that?
Black Girl Magic.
Yes. And you know what? It wasn't intended to be that. But you know what? That's how God put it together. But any and everybody, man, woman, and child, is invited to come because everyone will get something from this event. If you don't, then I don't know what's wrong with you.
What's wrong with your soul?
Absolutely.
Yes, you're listening to Access Houston. We've got Mrs. Donna from C3 Women's Network Houston. B, the Business Education Expo, happening on February the 1st. What day is that?
The day before Super Bowl. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Super Bowl Eve.
Yes, it's from 10:30 to 4. So, get your education on, get your networking on, start your 2020 right by coming to the B, for sure.
And it'll be at the United Way Resource Center. Do you know
that's
that
50 Watt Drive here in Houston.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So do people need to register, sign up? Should they go to the website to get all the information or to register? What's the process?
Actually, our tickets are on Eventbrite. Okay. So you get your ticket on Eventbrite. That ticket will get you in the door. It will get your name dropped in for a gold digger bag, which I can't even begin to tell you, y'all. Those bags are filled with just a bunch of goodies.
A gold digger bag.
A gold digger, because it's a gold digger movement, KG.
Yeah.
It will also get you a couple of drink tickets. It will get you some food tickets as well. So it's worth the money. Yes,
Indeed.
for sure.
Well, Houston be in the house. We'll be there. Donna, it's such a pleasure to meet you. I know the light and the energy that you brought here today. I needed that.
Thank you.
Thank you. This morning. I needed that.
I can appreciate that.
Log on to the website for more information. That is C3Women'sNetwork-Houston.com. That's C3Women'sNetwork-Houston.com to get all the information on the Business Education Expo.
And check out Eventbrite to get your tickets. Just look up B.E.E, the Business Education Expo.
B.E.E on Eventbrite to get those tickets.
Yes. And Doing Far More is the elite sponsor of this event. So, Mrs. Donna, some of it's coming out of the pocket. But for all the great cause.
Get the return.
Absolutely.
So nice to meet you. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much. If we have one more minute, I'd definitely like to touch on the pre-planning with Doing Far More, if that is possible.
Sure. Yeah. We can squeeze that in. What is pre-planning? I'm sorry.
It's very important. So Mrs. Donna is an advocate for pre-planning, and pre-planning is pre-planning for your burial, cremation, and funeral services.
Okay.
So this is something that I've been doing for quite some time now. My passion, my purpose is really touching lives, giving back, and doing far more. I continue to say that. I am now launching what is called Cemetery Chronicles and Funeral Facts, because the education is key. What people don't know, they need to know to save money, like in today's pricing, because it's amazing what you can do in advance. So
planning.
Yes. Did you know about that, KG?
I actually did, because my grandmother did that back in the 90s. I just remember her getting everything set up. The plot for, the burial.
Important.
This, that, like she didn't want, her children or grandchildren to have to take care of anything. So that's amazing. She did pre-planning, and when, she did go home to be with the Lord back in 2014.
It made it a little bit easier on you all.
Yeah.
Because pre-planning is really not about the individual that's doing the pre-planning. It's about the loved ones that they leave behind. And then I have been blessed with, I've been doing real estate for 20-something odd years, but now I do interment rights. So I can sell all over the state of Texas. So if you need help, if you need to pre-plan, if you want to know what it looks like, what it costs, looking at the spaces at any of the plethora of locations that I am contracted with, call Miss Donna. I'm here to help.
And that number is?
832-745-1114. Again, 832-745-1114.
If you remember that skit on In Living Color with the Jamaican family, like, how many jobs you got, man? I got 13 jobs, man.
I've heard that many times.
Got 13 jobs. She does.
And I love them all.
Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for listening to Access Houston. Good Sunday morning. You're listening to Access Houston. I'm your host, KG Smooth. Welcoming back friend to the show, friend in real life. She is the founder of Real Beauty, Real Women. And socially conscious fashionistas, my friend, Jacquelyn Aluotto. Hi.
Hey, thank
Happy
you.
New Year. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you too. Thank you for having me on.
You know, it's nothing because every time we get together, I was just telling Jacquelyn that we're going to have to keep this in the 12 minutes because this show is booked this Sunday, because every time we get together, we go on because we talk about the real things that matter. And sex trafficking is one. I was very shocked. Well, and I found this out through you a couple of years ago, that Houston is #1 in the city for sex trafficking.
Yeah, so there are about 300,000 that they know of human trafficking victims in the state of Texas. A little over 79,000 of them are children. So it's they're alarming numbers.
And I didn't know that January was a National Human Trafficking Awareness Month.
Yes.
And so you're doing something to bring more awareness to it, because I feel like this issue is one of the ones that is not really discussed at all, if you ask me. And I am someone who stays in the know, that's in the community, you know, hear, you know, maybe just a splash here or there about somebody talking about sex and human trafficking, but for us to be #1 and it not be a priority because it is an epidemic is alarming to me.
Yeah, it's $150 billion industry. So when you wrap your mind around those kind of numbers, you understand, like, on a large scale, just how much $150 billion is, and just how many people are being exploited. The narrative and the shift has changed a bit, and in Texas, you'll see a lot more about human trafficking and sex trafficking, but it's not more deeper conversations about how and why it's happening, how children are being sex trafficked out of schools and churches, because then people will actually have to acknowledge that it's happening in their communities, in schools and churches. So it's been challenging, but I feel like we're finally making a way that we can actually have honest conversations to let people know this is how you can identify this so that you can protect your children.
So let's unpack that. I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because on social media, you know, you'll see a lot of warning posts out to women and children. I remember seeing one where they had like the white zip ties, you know, connected to the cars next to each other, and like, women, if you see this, be aware, because this is, you know, them trying to kidnap you for sex trafficking or human trafficking. And we need to get the information out there, because to me, that's not sex trafficking. That's abduction.
Correct.
I would think.
Yes. Yeah.
And so can we break down how maybe one is kind of lured into
human
trafficking?
Okay.
Yeah.
So first of all, under the umbrella of human trafficking is labor trafficking, arms trafficking, drug trafficking, organ trafficking, and sex trafficking.
That's another one we need to touch on, organ trafficking, but that's another show.
So with sex trafficking, traditionally with children, it is normally someone that you do know, especially because kids communicate via the internet and social media. So even if it's not someone that they know personally, they make friends over social media. And a lot of times it is a boy or another girl grooming them, or it's an adult pretending to be a child that is grooming them. And so that is how a majority of children are sex trafficked, is through social media and lured and groomed. However, there are so many dynamics. It's also, you can recruit and groom children out of schools. You're friends with them. You start changing the way they think, the way they feel. They go to a party. They're maybe have a few drinks. Maybe do something that they don't want people to see, and it's been videoed. And now they're being blackmailed that if you don't do what we're going to tell you to do, we're going to show your parents. We're going to send it to your pastor. So there are so many different ways of how children are groomed and sex trafficked. Another way is they're broken. You know, once you break someone, then they feel like there's nowhere else to go but the life. And it's really kind of like, 'cause that's really hard for people to understand. But what I would say is when a soldier goes off to war, when they're in that country, they want to go home. But then when they get back home, they really have a problem relating to people. They have post-traumatic stress. They have severe trauma. And us as a society, we are not equipped to deal with that kind of trauma. So they go back out to using, and then they'll go back out to being trafficked again. And so it's really a cycle and so many different layers and dynamics. One of the biggest things that this country needs to get is that it is really happening in schools and churches. With Epstein, he was just paying the girls, for every girl you bring to us, we're going to give you $200. So especially when they were poor kids, they just kept on bringing him kids until in like these nice Florida areas and stuff, children were being sex trafficked and their parents didn't even know about it. And so I think the big issue is we have to be able to identify the signs of human trafficking. And then when we identify the signs is we have to really be able to provide victims and survivors with the proper trauma therapy that they need. And I think that that's hard for people because a lot of times when you come across a human trafficking survivor, they're not saying, a lot of them, like, please help me. They think in their head that it's their fault and they're ashamed because it was their boyfriend and they thought they were a willing participant, or because it was their friend, or because after the first couple of nights that they were broken in and introduced to it and gang raped and given drugs, that's what they agreed to do after that. So they really feel like it's their fault. So a lot of times when you recover them, they're hard, they're combative. And people misunderstand that with, oh, these kids, they're in gangs, or they don't care, or they're not victims. And so one of the really big parts is training law enforcement so that they can really identify what victims look like, especially juvenile victims.
That was going to be my next question. I actually had two. One, if you could just break down in layman's terms for the everyday person, the definition of trafficking. What exactly is human trafficking and sex trafficking? So they can I know in context they kind of know the definition, but what is the definition?
So under human trafficking was all the different trafficking that I talked about.
Right.
That spans all of the umbrellas of trafficking. Sex trafficking the title is if you are coerced, paid for someone to do sexual favors and acts for you. If you are a minor. Okay. So that means that even if you say, if I give you drugs, you're going to have sex with me. That's a definition of sex trafficking. And I like to break it down like that because, when people hear, coercion and stuff and the definition, they don't really get it. Or if I'm a homeless child on the street and you're like, hey, I'm going to feed you and give you a place to stay, but you're going to have sex with me and my friends, that's a definition of sex trafficking.
Got it.
All with children. So children cannot be prostitutes, even if they think that they're willing participants, because they are being exploited and they do not understand what's really happening to them.
Indeed. You're listening to Access Houston, talking to Jacquelyn Aluotto from Real Beauty, Real Women. We're talking about human and sex trafficking on this episode of Access Houston, and you are doing something on the 31st to help combat and bring more awareness to it, since January is Human Trafficking Awareness Month. Tell us about Friday the 31st.
Yeah, so Friday the 31st, if people can get tickets, we would greatly appreciate it. Most people don't know, but like our nonprofit, we don't take paychecks. We're all volunteers, and so all of our resources and funding really goes towards survivors and programs to break the cycle. And sometimes people just don't understand it's really expensive to break the cycle of such kind of trauma and violence. So January 31st, we have this gala. It's SC's second annual gala. They are Real Beauty Women's the benefactor, and it is at the Bayou downtown. Okay. And so it starts at 6:30, and if people want to get tickets, they can go to SC's Gala on Eventbrite. I'm going to just read this because I always get this wrong, so just excuse me for a second. So it is from 6:30 to 10, and it's at the Ballroom at Bayou Place. And I want to thank the Ballroom at Bayou Place because they really came in as a sponsor for us and have just done amazing things. And then if you want to get tickets, second annual Essie Gala benefiting RBRW Foundation. And there you'll also learn just more about our organization. Our keynote speaker, she was the first child abducted from MySpace. The FBI actually rescued her when she was 12, which is over 20 years ago. And when he had kidnapped her, he had pretended he was another, like a little boy. And she was a shy, awkward child. It was her only friend, was over the internet. And then he ended up abducting her and turning his basement into a dungeon where he did like horrific things to her. And he streamed it on the black web. And the day that he said that he was going to kill her because he started liking her too much, the FBI knocked down her doors. And so the remarkable thing about Alicia is after she got rescued, she has spent her whole life towards international internet crimes against children. And her nonprofit raises funds just for that. And she works with forensic psychology, and she just does so much. And her story, recently she actually just had to face her predator because her predator moved back to her neighborhood right next to her parents' house. And by law, that was okay. Thank God he violated his probation, so he went back to jail. But she's very brave because she had to go back to court and even face him. So she's going to talk about how that really happened. You know, she was this middle-class girl, and people don't think it can happen to your children. And she's going to talk about exactly how it happened, how she was groomed and lured, and then just signs to watch on social media. Parents really just give their kids like their phones and their iPads, and they have no idea these commercials are coming on with these violent cartoons, and people can communicate with them. And, you know, there's 7 billion people on the planet, and once you have a device, those people have access to you. And so we have to really be conscious of that, especially with kids.
And monitor, you know, what your kids are looking at. You have to monitor what your kids and teenagers are looking at on that phone, on that tablet device, because that is exactly how they get I didn't know it was that simple. So it's basically just the old school way of how a child predator would do in real life, except online.
Right. Now they have access.
Now they have access to them, and they're pulling them in.
Yeah.
So parents, get on your job.
Yeah.
And monitor who your kids are talking to, what apps they're on, who they're communicating with, because this is not a game. This isn't a game. As you were talking, I was thinking to myself, I said, either NBC or some network needs to bring back To Catch a Predator.
Yeah.
But maybe have a spin on it as to where they're catching folks trying to lure, you know, a child or a teenager, or hell, well, an adult is an adult, but just trying to lure people in so they can get caught up in the human trafficking and sex trafficking ring.
Yeah.
I feel like they should bring that back.
And
we can bring it back.
Yes, that's a good idea. That would be a show. And I can also email you the 15 most popular apps for parents to look out for, and why. And then also our website, if people want to learn more about us, is www.breakthecycle.rbrw.org.
Okay.
Or they can just go to rbrw.org or
rbrw.org to
Yeah.
get all that info. Oh,
I know. Because I got so much more to tell you.
Oh,
but
my gosh.
We'll have to do a part 2 and a part 3.
Well, absolutely. Or just have you come up here and we'll just have the whole hour.
Yeah, I would love that.
How about that? Yeah.
I would love that.
What's your social so everybody can follow Real Beauty?
So
Real
our
Women?
Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn is Real Beauty, Real Women. So people can follow us and they can just follow just the cool different initiatives that we're doing because we're doing some really exciting stuff. And I have a lot of faith that it's going to make a big difference.
I love you because you do real work. She's out here trying to make a change, and she has got. You can back it up.
Thank you.
You can back it up, and I can back her up because this is the real deal. Let's set that up. Let's have you back on. We gotta do this again. But save the date for Friday, January 31st for the event. Just log on to RBRW.org. My friend Jacquelyn Aluotto from Real Beauty, Real Women. Thank you. So good to see you.
Thank you so much for having me on.
And thank you for listening to Access Houston.